The Secretary will read the report of the Declaration Committee. Mr. Thompson.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect of the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Jefferson, we're back, and we've got Maryland. That is, we will as soon as Chase gets through telling the Maryland Assembly what we saw in New Brunswick.
He's in Annapolis right now, describing a ragtag collection of militiamen who can't train together, drill together, or march together. But when they saw a flock of ducks fly by, they haven't had a meal in 3 days. Merciful heavens, could they shoot together? It was a slaughter.
They're reading the Declaration.
What? Where have they gone?
To render the military independent of and superior to civil power.
Look, there's nothing to fear. It's a masterpiece. I'm to be congratulated.
You?
Yes, for making him write it.
Yes, of course.
It's a masterpiece, I say. They will cheer every word, every letter.
I wish I felt that way.
I believe I can put it better. Now then, attend us friend to friend, our Declaration Committee. For us I see immortality in Philadelphia City. A farmer, a lawyer, and a sage, a bit gouty in the leg. That here we are, playing midwives to an egg.
Egg? What egg?
America, the birth of a new nation.
Only we knew what kind of bird it was going to be.
That's the point. What sort of bird should we choose as a symbol of our new nation?
The eagle.
The dove.
The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle.
The turkey.
The eagle is a majestic bird.
The eagle is a scavenger and a thief, a coward, and a symbol of more than 10 centuries of European mischief.
And the turkey?
A truly noble bird, a native of America, sustenance for our early settlers, and an incredibly brave fellow who would think nothing of standing up to an entire regiment of Englishmen single-handedly. Therefore, the national bird of America will be
The eagle!
The eagle.
We're waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp of an eaglet being born. Waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
Heaven knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone, let alone an egg.
We're waiting for the scratch, scratch, scratch of that tiny little fellow. Waiting for the egg to hatch on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator. Heaven knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone.
But will it hatch an egg?
It'll be a triumph, I say. A triumph! If I've ever been sure of anything in my entire life, it's this. It will be a triumph. And if it's not, we have 4 days to think of something else. The eagle's going to crack the shell of the egg that England laid. Yes, sir, we can tell on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
Heaven knows the Tom here has written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
And just as Tom here has written, we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
full power to levy wars, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have right to. And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Congress has heard the report of the Declaration Committee. Are there any who wish to offer amendments, deletions, or alterations to the Declaration?
Mr. President.
Gentlemen, please. Mistress McNair, you better open the window. Colonel McKean, I saw your hand first.
Tom, now it's a bony paper that you've written, but somewhere in it you've mentioned Scottish and foreign mercenaries sent to destroy us. Scottish, Tom? It's in reference to a Highland regiment that came against us at Boston. You know, those were most likely Germans wearing kilts to disguise their being there. Now, I ask you to remove the word and avoid giving offense to a good people.
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. President.
The Reverend Witherspoon.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention the Supreme Being. Certainly this must be an oversight, for how could we hope to achieve a victory without his help? Therefore, I must humbly suggest the following addition to your final sentence. With the firm reliance on the protection of divine providence.
Mr. Jefferson.
President,
Mr. Reed.
among your charges against the king, Mr. Jefferson, you accuse him of depriving us of the benefits of trial by jury. This is untrue, sir. In Delaware, we have always had trial by jury.
In Massachusetts, we have not.
Oh. Then I suggest the words, in many cases, be added.
Really? In many cases? Oh, brilliant. You know, I'm sure every time you see those 3 tiny words, your puny little chest will swell up with pride of a great historical contribution.
It's more memorable than your unprincipled whitewash of that race of barbarians back in Boston.
Mr. Reed, Colonel McKean, that's enough. Mr. Hopkins.
No objections, John. I'm just trying to get a drink.
I should have known. Mistress McNabb, give him rum.
Mr. President.
Mr. Bartlett.
Mr. Jefferson, I beg you to remember that we still have friends in England. But I see no purpose in the phrases unfeeling brethren and enemies in war to be used in this declaration. Our fight is with the King of England, not the British people.
Be sensible, Bartlett. Remove those phrases and the paragraph becomes essentially meaningless. And it just so happens to be one of the most poetic passages in the entire document.
Mr. Adams, we are a Congress, not a literary society. I ask the entire paragraph be stricken.
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Jefferson, don't you ever intend to speak up for your own work?
I had intended that the work would speak for itself.
Mr. Hancock,
What is it, Mistress McNair?
I can't say that I'm too fond of the name, the United States of America, as a name for a new country.
Mistress McNair, I don't care what you're fond of. You're not a member of this Congress. Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Jefferson, I noticed on at least 2 distinct and direct references to the British Parliament in your declaration. Do you think it wise to alienate that august body in light of our contention that they've never had authority over us anyway?
This is a revolution, damn it! We're going to have to offend somebody.
You're going to have an attack of apoplexy if you're not careful.
Have you heard what they're doing to it, Franklin? Have you heard?
Yes, I've heard.
And
but-
so far, it's only been our friends. Can you imagine what our enemies are going to do to it?
The word parliament will be removed wherever it occurs, Mr. Thompson.
Courage, John. It can't last much longer.
They won't be satisfied until they remove one of the F's in Jefferson's name.
Mr. Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Jefferson, I have very little interest in your paper, as there is no doubt in my mind that we have all but heard the last of it. But I am curious about one thing.
Why do you refer to King George as a tyrant?
Because he is a tyrant.
I remind you, Mr. Jefferson, this tyrant is still your king.
Yes, but when a king becomes a tyrant, he thereby breaks the contract binding his subjects to him
How so?
by taking away their rights.
Rights! That came from him in the first place.
All but one, sir. The right to be free comes from nature.
Mr. Wilson, do we in Pennsylvania consider King George a tyrant?
Well, I don't know. No. No, we do not. He is not a tyrant. In Pennsylvania.
There you are, Mr. Jefferson. Your declaration does not speak for us all. I demand the word tyrant be removed.
Just a moment, Mr. Thompson. The king is a tyrant, whether we say so or not. We might as well say so.
I already scratched it out.
Then scratch it back in.
Put it back, Mr. Thompson. The king will remain a tyrant. Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention deep sea fishing rights.
Fishing rights! Fishing rights! How long is this piddling to go on? We have been here for 3 days, have endured, by my count, 85 separate changes to the Declaration and the removal of close to 400 words. Would you whip and beat it until it loses all of its spirit? I tell you, this document is a masterful expression of the American mind.
If there are no other changes, the chair assumes. Look out. Yes, Mr. Rutledge.
I wonder if we could prevail upon Mr. Thompson to read a small portion of Mr. Jefferson's declaration. The part that begins with, and he wages cruel war.
Mr. Thompson.
He is infected, he is combined, he is abdicated, he is plundered, constrained, he is excited, he is incited. He's waged cruel war. It is. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself, in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere. He is prostituted.
That will suffice, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Jefferson, I cannot quite make out what it is you're saying now.
Slavery, Mr. Rutledge.
Oh, you're talking about us as slaves of the king.
No, sir. I'm talking about our slaves. Black slaves.
Black slaves. Well, were you trying to hide your meaning, sir?
No, sir.
Just another literary license, then.
If you like.
I don't like it. I don't like it all. To us in the Deep South, black slavery is a cherished way of life.
Nothing is more clearly written in the Book of Fate than that slavery should be abolished.
I'm not concerned with the Book of Fate right now, Mr. Adams. I'm more concerned with what's written in that little paper there.
That little paper there deals with freedom for Americans.
Oh, Mr. Adams is now calling all black slaves Americans. Are they now?
Yes, sir. They are people, and they are here.
They are people.
I don't believe there's any other requirement.
They are here. But they are not people. They are property, sir.
No, sir. They are people being treated as property. I tell you, the rights of human nature are deeply offended by this infamous practice.
Then see to your own wounds, Mr. Jefferson. For you are a practitioner, are you not?
I've already resolved to release my slaves.
And I'm sorry, sir, you have also resolved the ruination of your own personal economy.
Economy. Always economy. There's more to this than a filthy purse string, Rutledge.
It's a stinking business, Mr. Rutledge. A stinking business.
Is it, Mr. Hopkins? Then what is that I smell coming down from the north? Could it be the aroma of hypocrisy? For who holds the other end of that purse string, that filthy purse string, Mr. Adams? Our northern friends are feeling a bit tender towards our slaves. They don't keep slaves, no, but they are willing to be considerable carriers of slaves to others. They are willing for a shilling. Oh, haven't you heard, Mr. Adams? Clink, clink. molasses to rum to slaves. Oh, what a beautiful waltz. You dance with us, and we dance with you in molasses and rum and slaves. Who sails the ships out of Boston, laden with Bibles and rum? Who drinks a toast to the Ivory Coast? In Africa, slavers have come. New England, with Bibles and rum. Then it's off with the rum and the Bibles. Take on the slaves, clink, clink. And it's hail and farewell to the smell of the African coast. Molasses and rum and slaves. It isn't morals, it's money that saves. Shall we dance to the sound of the profitable pound in molasses and rum and slaves? Who sails the ships out of Guinea, laden with Bibles and slaves? 'Tis Boston can boast to the West Indies coast. Jamaica, we've rum which she craves. Antigua, Barbados, we've rum, Bibles, and slaves. Gentlemen, you mustn't think that our northern friends see our slaves as merely figures on a ledger. Oh no, they see them as figures on a rock. Notice the faces on the walls, gentlemen. White faces, New England faces at the auctions. Put them in the ships. Cram them in the ships. Stuff them in the ships. Let the auction begin. Yo-ho, yo-ho, Macunda. Blackbirds for sale. Black gold. Living gold. Do you hear that, gentlemen? That's the cry of the auctioneer. Yo-ho, yo-ho, Macunda. Blackbirds for sale. Igbo, 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 Ashanti. Handle them. Fondle them. But don't figure them. They are prime. They are prime. Yo-ho, yo-ho.
For the love of God, Mr. Rutledge, please.
Molasses to rum to slaves who sailed the ships back to Boston, laden with gold, see it gleam, whose fortunes are made in the triangle trade. Hail slavery, the New England dream. Mr. Adams, I give you a toast. Hail Boston, hail Charleston, who stinketh the most.
Mr. Rutledge! Mr. Hughes! Dr. Hall!
Don't worry, they'll be back.
I to vote us down.
Adams, Franklin, I have it. And the Maryland Assembly's approved it after I got done telling them about the greatest military engagement in history against a flock of...
It suffered a slight setback. And after all, what is a man profited if he shall gain Maryland, but lose the entire South? Matthew chapter 16, verse 26.
Mistress McNair?
I know. The flies.
No. A rum.
Well, what are y'all sitting around for? There's work to be done. Thomas, I need you to ride down into Delaware and fetch back Caesar Rodney. John, are you mad? 80 miles on horseback and he's a dying man. No! He's a patriot. What good is it John the South has done us in? And suppose they change their minds. Can we get Delaware without Caesar? What a bastardly bunch we are. Stephen!
I'll be at the tavern, John. If there's anything I can do for you there, let me know.
Chase! Bartlett!
What's the use, John? The vote is in the morning.
It's less than a full day left.
Roger?
Face facts, John. It's finished.
I'm sorry, John.
John, we have no choice. The slavery clause has to go.
What are you saying, Franklin?
It's a luxury we can't afford.
A luxury! 500,000 souls in chains. And Dr. Franklin calls it a luxury. Perhaps you should have walked out with the South.
You forget yourself, sir. I founded the first anti-slavery society on this continent.
Do not wave your credentials at me. Perhaps it's time you renewed them.
The issue here is independence. Maybe you have lost sight of that, but I have not. How dare you jeopardize our cause when we've come so far? These men, no matter how much we disagree with them, are not ribbon clerks to be ordered about. They're proud, accomplished men, the cream of their colonies. And no matter how much we don't like it, they and the people they represent will be part of any nation you'd hope to form. So start learning how to live with them. Or else pack up and go home. But at any rate, stop acting like a Boston fishwife.
What has happened to me? John Adams. The great John Adams. The wise man of the East. My law firm failing. My farm also failing. At a time in life where most men prosper, I'm reduced to living in Philadelphia. Philadelphia! Oh, Abigail, what am I going to do?
Do, John?
I need your advice.
You don't usually ask my advice.
Well, there doesn't appear to be anyone else right now, does there?
Very well, John. What is it?
The entire South has walked out of this Congress. George Washington is on the verge of total annihilation. The cause for which I have labored these many years has come to nothing, and it appears I am obnoxious and disliked.
Nonsense, John.
That I am unwilling to face reality.
Foolishness, John.
That I am pig-headed.
Well, there you have me, John. I'm afraid you are pig-headed.
Has it been any kind of life for you, Abigail? I know I haven't given you much.
I never asked for more. After all, I am Mrs. John Adams. That's quite a lot for one lifetime.
Is it, Abby?
Think of it, John, to be married to the man who's always first in line to be hanged.
Yes, the agitator. You must tell me why it is, Abby. I've always been dissatisfied, I know that. But lately I feel as though I reek of discontentment. It fills my throat, and it floods my brain, and sometimes I fear that there is no longer a dream, only the discontentment.
Oh, John, do you really know so little about yourself? And can you think so little of me that you think I'd marry the man you described? Have you forgotten what you used to say to me? I haven't. Commitment, Abby, commitment. There are only two creatures of value on the face of this earth. Those who do commitment and those who require the commitment of others. Do you remember?
I remember.
Mr. Adams!
What?
These are for you!
What? Get up, get out of your chair. Tomorrow is here. Too late to despair. Jefferson, talk to but the talk. If it takes all night, keep talking, talk and talk and talk. You're both Southern aristocrats. If you'll listen to anybody, he'll listen to you. Franklin, time's running out.
I know. Get out of my chair. Do I have to talk to Wilson?
Yes, you do. If it takes all night, keep talking, talk and talk and talk. Get away from Dickinson. That's the only way it could possibly work.
I'm still from Massachusetts, John. You know where I stand. I'll do whatever you say.
No, you're the president of Congress and you're a fair man. Stay that way. Just out of curiosity, Dickinson. Thompson, do you side with Dickinson or do you side with me?
Well, I side with the gentleman. Lately about the art of stealing he was writing to me. I've been in expectation of receiving a reply. The subject of my last 15 dispatches. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Is anybody there? Humble and obedient.
Are you hungry, John?
No, I think I'll stay.
Good night.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. But to England I say, good night, forever good night. For I have crossed the Rubicon. Let the bridge be burnt behind me. Come what may, come what may. Commitment! The croakers all stay through the day. They'll be held to pay in fiery purgatory. Through all the gloom, through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? I see fireworks. I see the pageant and pomp and parade. I hear the bells ringing down. I hear the cannons roar. I see Americans, all Americans free forevermore. How quiet the chamber is. How silent the chamber is. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see?
Mr. Adams, I do.
I'm sorry, Dr. Hall. I didn't know anyone was there.
I'm sorry if I startled you. I couldn't sleep. In trying to resolve my dilemma, I remembered something I once read. That a representative owes the people not only his industry, but also his judgment. And that he betrays the people if he sacrifices to their opinions. That was written by Edmund Burke, a member of the British Parliament.
Congress will now vote on Virginia's resolution on independence. Thank you for coming, Caesar, and God bless you, sir. The Secretary will call the roll, and I would remind you, gentlemen, that a single nay vote will defeat the motion. Mr. Thompson.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire votes yea.
New Hampshire says yea. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts says yay.
Massachusetts says yay. Rhode Island.
Rhode Island says yay.
Rhode Island says yay. Connecticut.
Connecticut says yea.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
New York abstains courteously.
New York abstains. New Jersey.
New Jersey says yay.
New Jersey says yay. Pennsylvania.
Mr. Secretary, Pennsylvania is not yet ready. Come back to us.
Pennsylvania passes. Delaware. Delaware, by majority vote,
Aye.
says yay. Delaware says yay.
Well done, sir.
Maryland.
Maryland says yea.
Maryland says yay. Virginia.
Virginia says yea.
Virginia says yay. North Carolina.
North Carolina yields.
South Carolina.
Well, Mr. Adams?
Well, Mr. Rutledge.
Remove the offended passage.
If we remove the passage, we'd be guilty of what we ourselves are rebelling against.
Mr. Adams, you must believe that I will do as I have promised to do. Remove the offended passage, or South Carolina will now and forever bury your dream of independence.
I beg you to consider what you're doing.
Franklin, if we give in on this issue, our posterity will never forgive us.
That's probably true. But we won't hear it anyway. We'll be long gone. Besides, what will posterity think we were? Demigods? We're men. No more, no less. Trying to get a new nation started against greater odds than a more generous God would have allowed. John, first things first. Independence. America. For if we don't secure this, what else matters?
Jefferson, say something.
What else is there to do?
Well, you're the man who wrote it.
Yes, Mr. Adams. I wrote all of it.
There! There it is! You have your slavery, Mr. Rutledge, and little good may it do you. Now vote, damn you!
The fair colony of South Carolina says yea.
South Carolina says yay.
North Carolina says yay.
North Carolina says yay. Georgia.
Georgia says yay.
Georgia says yay. Pennsylvania. Second call.
Pennsylvania regrets all the inconvenience that such distinguished men as Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson have to put to just now. They might have kept their documents intact for all the difference it would make. Mr. President, Pennsylvania says...
Just a moment. I ask that you poll the delegation.
Dr. Franklin, don't be absurd.
A poll, Mr. President, is a proper request.
Yes, yes it is. All the delegation, Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yay.
Mr. John Dickinson.
Nay.
Mr. James Wilson. Judge Wilson.
There you have it, Mr. Wilson. The entire question of American independence rests squarely on your shoulders. A new nation, waiting to be born, or to die at birth, all on your say-so. What will it be, Mr. Wilson? Every map maker in the world is waiting for your decision.
Come now, James. Nothing has changed. You mustn't let Dr. Franklin create one of his confusions. The question is clear.
Most questions are clear when someone else has to decide.
It would be a shame for a man who has handed down hundreds of just verdicts from the bench to be remembered for the one bad decision he made while in Congress.
James, you're keeping everybody waiting. The secretary's called for your vote.
Please don't push me, John. I know what you want me to do. But Mr. Adams is right about one thing. I'm the one who will be remembered for it.
Yes? Well, whether you want to remember it or not, James, there's no way of avoiding it.
Not necessarily. If I go with them, I'll be one among dozens. No one will remember the name of James Wilson. But if I vote with you, I'll be the man who prevented American independence. I just didn't bargain for that.
And is that how new nations are formed? By a non-entity trying to preserve the anonymity that he so richly deserves?
Revolutions are born, not bastard children, Mr. Dickinson. Part improvised, part compromise. We have provided the compromise. Now Judge Wilson is providing the rest.
James.
Sorry, John. My vote is yay. Pennsylvania says yay. The count being 12 to none, with one abstention. The resolution on independence is adopted.
It's done! It's done!
Mr. Thompson, is the declaration ready to be signed?
It is.
Then I suggest that we do so at once. The chair further proposes that for our mutual security and protection, no man be allowed to sit in this Congress without a
I'm
text.
sorry, Mr. President. I cannot, in good conscience, sign this document. We'll never stop hoping for eventual reconciliation with England. But because in my own way I regard America no less than Mr. Adams, I will join the army and fight in her defense, even though I believe that fight to be hopeless. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Gentlemen of Congress, I say ye, John Dickinson.
Gentlemen, are there any objections to the declaration being approved as it now stands?
I have one, Mr. President.
John, you, Mr. Adams?
Mr. Jefferson, it just so happens that the word is unalienable, not inalienable.
I'm sorry, Mr. Adams. Inalienable is correct.
I happen to be a Harvard graduate, Mr. Jefferson.
And I attended William and Mary.
Gentlemen, please. Mr. Jefferson, will you yield to Mr. Adams' request?
No, I will not.
Very well then. I'll withdraw it.
Good for you, John.
I'll talk to the printers about it later.
Of course.
Very well, gentlemen. We are about to brave the storm in a skiff made of paper. Where it will end, God only knows.
That's a mighty large signature, John.
So Fat George in London can read it without his glasses. Well, gentlemen, step right up. Don't miss your chance to commit treason.
Mr. Hancock is right. This document is our passport to the gallows. But it's too late to back out now. For if we do not hang together, we shall most assuredly hang separate.
You know, hanging won't be so bad, Franklin. I mean, for me it'll be over like that, but look at Reed over there. He'll be dancing a jig long after I'm gone.
Gentlemen, you will forgive me if I don't join in the merriment, but if we're arrested now, my name is still the only one on the damn thing.
Commander, Army of the United Colonies Army of the United States. In New York, dispatch number 1209. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, I can now report with some certainty that the eve of battle in New York is near at hand. Toward this end, I have ordered the evacuation of Manhattan and directed our defenses to take up stronger positions on the Brooklyn Heights. At the present time, my forces consist entirely of Hazlitt's Delaware militia and Smallwood's Marylanders, a total of 5,000 troops to stand against 25,000 of the enemy. And I begin to notice that many of them are lads under 15 and old men, none of whom could truly be called soldiers. One personal note to Mr. Lewis Morris of New York. I must regretfully report that his estates have been totally destroyed, but that I have taken the liberty of transporting Mrs. Morris and 8 of the children to Connecticut in safety. The 4 older boys are now enlisted in the Continental Army. As I write these words, the enemy is plainly in sight beyond the river. How it will end, only Providence can direct, but dear God, what brave men I shall lose before this business ends. Your obedient, G. Washington.
Mr. Superman, go ring the bell.
Mr. President,
Mr. Morris?
to hell with New York. I'll sign it anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Thompson?
New Hampshire, Dr. Josiah Bartlett. Massachusetts, Mr. John Adams. Rhode Island, Mr. Stephen Hopkins. Connecticut, Mr. Roger Sherman.
Stephen, go sit down.
No, I want to remember each man's face as he signs.
Very well.
New York, Mr. Lewis Morris. New Jersey, the Reverend Jonathan Witherspoon. Pennsylvania, Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Delaware, Mr. Caesar Rodney. Maryland, Mr. Samuel Chase. Virginia, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. North Carolina, Mr. Joseph Hughes.